Within a few minutes, you will get to a desktop that looks like this with an information frame that says you have a couple of usernames that you might use in the future. Guest, whose password is guest, and root, whose password is root. That'll be more interesting later, but for right now, on our first experience with this PC Linux OS from CD, it's time to just experiment with it to find out, does it work well on my hardware? Now, I've already done this, and I know that it does work well. But to help you understand the kind of thing that I normally do, I'm going to take you through a little tour. Clicking in the lower left-hand corner on this PC icon is similar to a Windows machine start button. Clicking there brings me up a menu of options, and I'm going to select the Internet option. And from the Internet option, I have a lot of choices, but the fun one, the one I like to use the most, is the Firefox web browser. This will attempt to use my internet connection through my Ethernet to access websites. For example, the PC Linux OS website has come up. This is a very good indication. It means that a lot of stuff is working, including my internet access. I could play with other things, the various icons that are here, and the other programs that are out here, the applications. But once that is done, and I normally do that until I'm satisfied that PC Linux OS or a particular version of Linux that I'm using is working well on my hardware. And once I reach that point, then it's time to actually install it. Now, there are a lot of different ways to install a Linux system. Sometimes you want to wipe out Windows and just completely replace it. Other times you want to share your existing hard disk drive with Windows without destroying Windows. I have found, though, that my preferred way to do this for beginners is to just buy a low-cost additional USB disk drive and install Linux on that and just leave my existing hard drive completely untouched. That's just safer and happier experience for beginners. And so that's what I've done. I've gone out and bought a low-cost USB 2 hard disk drive. Now, these are readily available today throughout the United States for on the order of $50 to $100. They're just not very expensive, and you don't need a very big one. I'm using a 100 gigabyte hard disk drive, and that's plenty of space for the kind of things that I normally do here, because I like to keep my data on additional disk drives. Choose one that makes sense to you, whatever you like. I am now going to plug that disk drive into a USB port, and we'll see if Linux can detect it. So I'm plugging it in now. I can see the power light on the disk drive has come on, and Linux should be detecting it and bring up some kind of an option to open it here in a moment. Waiting. There it is. Available devices. Oh, it says there are 3 actions for this device. By left-clicking on that, I can choose from among those actions, and I like this bottom one, Open with File Manager. So it's going to open up that disk drive, and what I see is a completely blank disk drive. All of this space right here being empty, that's good. It means that I've got a blank disk drive with nothing on it. That's what I want to use to install PC Linux OS. I wonder if I right-click on that, if I can look at various options. I could hide it. Okay, so that disk drive is in place, and I'm going to use it to install PC Linux OS.